We are live on YouTube from the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York City. Special tonight on the Ed Sullivan Show, Dave Clark 5. And for the children, Topo Gijo. Anybody remember all that? Okay, thanks for having everyone tonight. I hope you introduced yourself to those at the table. Everyone needs to get to know one another. We got a lot of things to talk about. So, as usual, here's our area: Mission Grove and the surrounding communities, Canyon Crest, Sycamore Canyon, Alessandro Heights, Orange Crest, parts of Woodcrest. We now cover about 70,000 of the population of Riverside, which is about 340,000, so we're about 20%. So we're doing good. Sponsor, Canyon Crest Country Club as usual, and Susan Wolf donated the flags that you see, the real estate agent. If you're not getting our emails, make sure you've signed in so that you can get our emails. We're asking everyone to go get your neighbor, get 5 of your neighbors to get online, sign up so we can just get their email and keep them informed as to what's going on. They don't have to come to the meetings. We're not going to knock on their door and demand money or any of that kind of stuff.
I will, Louis.
You will demand money?
I'll knock on their doors and ask for money.
But we might need them down the road to help sign petitions for referendums and initiatives and recalls. So, meeting rules, respect one another, raise your hand to speak, email any questions back to Magnet. So, some updates. How many of you filled out and sent in something for the Kmart EIR? Great. You need to give yourself a big hand for that. We had at least 200 email letters were sent in, and with almost 1,000 questions. And they have to answer every question and every comment by law. So that took a lot of work. Brian and I spent a lot of hours trying to get that done. We thank everyone for responding so quickly. We know you only had 48 hours, but it was a lot of work to get through all that. And now we're working on the next one, the EIR for March, for the base where they want to build an extra hangar and increase the flights, for commercial flights. So everyone, the West Campus vote, it was done on the same night that we had our last meeting. They had about 500 people there. I'll show you some pictures here in a minute. 500 people there. What happened with that is they decided to delay the vote on the West Campus. But it was not only delayed, it was kind of delayed double, meaning that the commissioners have to vote first to put it on the agenda and then vote again once it's on the agenda. So we think that's going to push it down the road a little bit for that. So anyone that showed up for that, great to have that because that big turnout paid off. The next big thing, though, is the March JPA Gateway Aviation Center EIR that's out right now. We were at the meeting last night. They extended it to the 22nd. They want to build more hangars on the March field and increase the commercial aircraft from roughly 4,000 a year to 14,000 a year. And they even have the allocation from the Air Force to go to 21,000 flights per year from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So 6 days a week. So if you figure that out, that could be 6, 7, 8 flights an hour for commercial freight planes taking off out of March. So we're in the process of going through that EIR. We're going to be sending out letters to you on that one to send in questions and comments for that one as we go forward. So we're looking for that. That deadline is July 22nd. We're also working on a third policy paper on the March JPA. We issued out 2 papers so far. We're working on the third one. And the other project that's coming up is the former Sears building down in Arlington. I'll show you some pictures from that in a minute. That they want to turn into 388 apartments. And the Airport Commission has turned that one down just like they did Kmart because it's too high density. And the City Council has already notified the commissioners that they are looking to overturn that vote, and they're having a public hearing on September 17th. So we need to watch that project because it's a few steps ahead of us with the Kmart project. We're going to be going through the same thing. So that's going to take a lot of votes from the city council. They're going to have to vote on the airport commission. They're going to have to vote on the planning. They're going to have to vote on the specific plan. They're going to have to vote on a number of things, and a number of those votes have to be 5-2. So we're going to have to turn out those city council meetings, just like the people did for the March JPA. We need to turn out 150 people and cram that whole city council chamber and let them know what we think and what we want. Because we've learned so far that at least a couple of our new city council members haven't lived up to their word. And they've only been in office a couple of weeks. They barely swore in the oath and basically violated their trust. So, the EMD Park, I'm going to show you a picture of that in a minute. We met with the EMD group on Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. Talked to them about the park, also created a community center next door by taking some of the water district's land on Alessandro and putting in a community center and a police substation. So we've talked to the police chief about it, we've talked to the city manager about it, we've talked to the water district about it. So we're pushing on that one. There's still some commission openings with the city, especially for ethics and the police commission. For anyone that wants to sit on those, I think there's openings for Ward 2 and Ward 4. So if you want to sit on any of those, let us know. Those are important commissions, especially the ethics commission. The RPU underground electric lines, we know what happened with the city council meeting. Our petition is still online, so if you know anyone that has not signed that, please get them to sign it. I think we're up to about 1,200 signatures now on there. We're trying to increase that more. NBT is going to do a video and a podcast about it. The goal is to try to get one of the city council members to reintroduce it. Personally, I'm not sure that's going to fly very well, but if it doesn't, we want to get ourselves geared up to do an initiative and basically put it on the ballot and let the people vote for whether they want those lines underground or whether they want 180-foot towers down by the river. Sober living homes, we're going to have a discussion about those on August 7th. The reason for that is, according to the new state rules, you can have up to 6 people in a 1-bedroom. So you can have up to 40 people in a 5 or 6 bedroom home. And that's what some of these sober living places are looking to do. I don't have a problem with the sober living concept, but when they're not registered with the local city and they're putting 40 people in, anywhere where you put 40 people crammed in a small property, you're going to end up with trouble. Right? People just can't live in those kind of close quarters. We are now incorporated, I mentioned in the last meeting, and we're on our way to our nonprofit status soon, which means we'll be able to go out and get certain grants and so on. We're going to be very careful about those grants because we don't want any strings attached. Any grants we take will be with no strings. Remember the Omeo automated electric car? Who remembers that?
Oh, yeah.
There it is. City Council voted the end of November, signed a contract for $2.5 million, gave them $700,000. They said they were going to have a plant opened in Riverside, going to be their international headquarters, and they were going to deliver a car in 6 months. That was 7 months ago. I called them 2 weeks ago in New Zealand, and I said, what's going on with your Riverside location? Well, we haven't found a location yet. So then I called again about a week or so later, and I said, can I talk to somebody about what you guys are doing? Well, we've got a guy that's in California or somewhere over there, and he's working on it, but send us an email. So I sent an email, still didn't get an answer. So I called him again today, which is tomorrow morning their time. I said, I still haven't heard anything. She goes, oh, you're the guy from Riverside, right? So now she goes, well, they're there right now looking for a place. I said, really? They're where? Here in Riverside? Yeah, somewhere in there. They're there. So are they meeting with anyone? Well, I don't know. But it started out with they didn't have a place and didn't know. To now 2 weeks later, they're here looking for a place. So maybe we'll get a car delivered eventually. We'll see. So I want to show you now some photos. Here is the turnout for the March 8th public hearing for the West Campus that was held in Moreno Valley. That is the commissioners on the left, anxiously listening to all the speakers for about 4 hours. This is a view from the crowd. From the back, they had over 500 people there. That's the kind of turnout we need for the city council when our issues come up for Kmart and so on. We also, Brian and I took a tour of the Vertec waste disposal location, and we did that because remember we had the meeting where they talked about recyclables and there was a little confusion, so we decided to go on a tour and find out what's what. So they gave us a very nice tour of the facility, of how the recyclables come in. Here they are, stacked to the roof. This is where all your stuff goes. Then it's broken down, and they've got, I think, about 14 or 16 people that still do manual labor, picking things out that don't belong and so on. But this is tedious work in terrible conditions, and they work 8 to 10-hour days. Personally, I think every high school student should go do one shift for 8 hours. Just so they can learn what work is really like. Right? That and 8 hours with the emergency room on a Friday or Saturday night, and 8 hours on an ambulance. So, yeah, sure.
Why did you choose to go to Vertec instead of Athens?
Because Athens takes it to Vertex.
I didn't know that.
Everything goes to Vertex facility, even from other cities, and San Bernardino and other, comes to their facility to be processed. So that's why we went there.
Can I give you an update on the Athens lady, the question you asked? You showed the black container and said, can that be recycled? And she said, yes. I've had quite a long conversation with her, and finally, she came back and said, no, they do not recycle it, and they don't know what they do with it. And I said, then why are we putting it in a recycle container?
Here's why, we got that answer.
Okay, good.
They told us that you can put all numbers 1 through 7 plastics in the recycling. Now, they're not currently recycling all of them, but they will take them all in there because they expect one day, soon, the technology will come about where they will do the ones that they're not doing now, which is like 3, 5, and something. But they still want them all put in there, and then they will separate them and take care of them. So they said, no problem, put 1 through 7 in the recyclable. The things that you should not put in there are anything that can wrap around their wheels. So don't put in, like if you buy a new mattress and it's got a big plastic cover on it, right? Don't roll that up and put it in the recyclables. Put it in the trash, because that'll end up being a long string and it'll wrap around their equipment and jam it up. Don't put garden hoses in the recyclable. Garden hoses will get caught, wrap up around the equipment, put it in the trash. So anything that can be wrapped up, anything that's smaller than 2 by 2, do not put in the recyclable.
No shredded paper.
Right, no shredded paper, none of that stuff is smaller than 2 by 2.
I went
Put it
onto
in
the
the trash.
Vertex site and they said you could do shredded paper.
You could use what?
On the Vertex site, it said you can put shredded paper in.
No, they told us absolutely not. It'll just get busted up and end up all over the place.
Okay.
They said put it in the trash. So, there's been a lot, that's why we went on the tour, a lot of misnomers of what but it's an amazing facility. They have all these robots that go around and pick out the cans and throw them in a different thing, and it runs down a conveyor, and it's an amazing process. You can see here they're picking out the oddball stuff that doesn't fit and letting the paper and larger things go through. Here you can see them separating cans, have all been separated. They used to have about 46 people pulling and sorting stuff. Now they're down to about 14 to 16, and robots have taken over the rest of it. So here's one of the robots here. You can see the arm coming down on this, getting it, and it's picking out and separating things that come through the conveyor belt. Now, here's an interesting one. You want to know where all your green waste goes? It goes out of these bins. They separate out the food waste. Oh, the food waste is another one. They want you to put the bag of food waste. They don't care what color the bag is. They don't care how big the bag is. The thicker the body of the bag, the better. They'd rather have them not break open. So the thickest bag you can use is fine, and it doesn't matter if it's raw or cooked. That's what they told us. Now, here's what they do here. They pile this stuff up, they separate it, and then underground they have all these air vents that blows air up through this stuff all the time and dries it out. And then they keep moving it around and drying it out, and they end up with these nice piles of compost that then get sold to different cities and so on. And the city is required by law. So it was a great tour. I'm glad we went on it. They were very nice, very meaningful. Any questions? We invited them to come out and speak and go through the whole thing with everyone. They're going to do that in the future. Then we also went to the CERT training out of the Ben Clark Training Center all day on Saturday in about 100-degree weather. There was about 125 people from CERT organizations all over the county. There was Temecula, there was Corona, there was Murrieta, all these different cities that had CERT teams. They were out there at 5 different stations. This was the one sponsored by Riverside City. This is the rescue truck. They went through all the equipment they have on the truck, what they use it for, and all that stuff. It was very interesting. This facility is magnificent. It's massive. They have their own dormitories where they house the cadets that come for fire or police. They've got their own mess hall. They've got their own meeting rooms. I mean, they are completely set up there to do any kind of training. And a huge yard area, and these mock buildings they have set up to do training and run up and down the stairs with the fire hose and all that stuff. So here we are trying to lift a concrete slab and see if we can knock the firemen off the slab. So one guy's giving directions. And I also went to Arlanza. That's a little community down by the airport, just west of Van Buren. They got a grant for the Neighbor to Neighbor project through the state, $1 million over 2 years to get neighbors together. And this is their first opening event from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. They had about 180 people sign up, plus their families, so they probably had about 300 people show up for this initial event. They'll be doing events every month for the next 2 years because this $1 million runs out in 2 years. I told them if they gave me $1 million, I'd have half the county organized. So here's the Sears building. I wanted to show you this. The airport manager recently wrote a letter out. Now, you can see the end of the runway 27. The Sears building is basically a mile away, straight down the runway line. And so it violates the Airport Commission's numbers for how dense you can have things. They want 6 per acre, and this one is 22 per acre for this project. So the airport manager wrote, he said, the Riverside City Council met on June 25th to review and send the draft findings to an overrule of the Riverside Airport Commission determined to the California Aeronautics, basically the ALUC, and schedule a public hearing on September 17th. So the City Council plans on overriding their decision. And he says, although the city has thus so far supported this proposed development, your airport is obligated via our federal grant assurances to oppose the incompatibility land use, which this proposed development represents. It will expose new residents to aircraft noise and likely results in more noise complaints affecting aircraft operations and tenants due to our goal to ensure we minimize noise impacts to the local community. We encourage you to share your thoughts and concerns about the proposed development. Hopefully he'll get to keep his job.
Exactly.
I handed to him for stepping out and saying, look, this is not going to count. At the same time this is going on, the city council wants to increase the air traffic out of the airport by 3 times what it is now. And Steve Robillard, one of the city council members, is hot on that. This is one of his big things, to increase that air traffic by 3 times. And doing that, then they want to put 388 apartments a mile away on 17 acres. So here's the proposed EMD park area, Mission Grove and Alessandro. The red line shows you the area. The park is right below the EMD office. The rest of that that's marked off is owned by the Water District, Washington Municipal Water District. It's on Alessandro. We've already gone to them to see about getting this piece of land because they're never going to use it to develop it, and would be better off if developed for their own security, because then it'd make it harder for people to get to their land if it was developed, to put a community center, expand the park, and put a police substation, which the chief has been wanting a substation up in that area for years. This is a look at the Santa Ana River projected project down in Anaheim to develop the river. I went to the meeting about this and the Riverside, talking about doing it in Riverside. The mayor's pushing this, as well as the Park and Recs Department. So I went down to the meeting where they described all this and discussed it. And I raised my hand at the end and I said, well then, this is all great. You're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars, but then you're going to put high wire tension lines at 180 feet above the river. What's the point? They couldn't give me a good answer. Here's where the line goes. Here's the river, going right under this Riverside high voltage, and here's where they want to put the lines. It's already underground for these 2 miles. And now they want to put 180-foot tension wires all the way along here, which is either on or near the river or within sight of the river, with only a few hundred feet. Okay, with that, I'm now going to bring up one other thing I wanted to say about the Kmart project, that EIR. One of the big problems we had with the EIR was parking. They have 513 parking spaces earmarked inside the project and another 91 to be shared in the parking lot of the mall. Now, 58 of those 53 are tandem. Someone's parking in front of someone else, which I don't count very much. The other problem is, according to a new law, AB 1317, you cannot offer parking free along with the rent. You have to charge extra for parking in any apartment building over 16 units, unless it's affordable housing. So that means that people can opt out to pay for parking. So if you're living in a big shopping center with 500 parking spaces, what are you going to do? You're going to opt out and go, well, I'll just park in the shopping center. So that's a big concern of mine. You could end up with 500 cars parked out there eating up the whole shopping center, blocking the retail stores and everything. So, okay, with that, I'm going to bring up Brandy from the police department. She's going to give us an update.
Hello, everyone. You guys hear me? No. Who said no? Hi. All right. So I just wanted to go over some quick numbers. First off, if you don't know me, I am Lieutenant Brandy Merrill with the PD. I am your area commander for the Eastern PC. I've been in this role for about 6-8 weeks now. So I think I've met a good bunch of you, but some of you I don't know, so I look forward to meeting you guys and working with you. Can you guys see the okay. So, how do I keep the hair over there? I did so. Perfect. Okay, cool. So, numbers-wise, when you look at staffing, I've had a couple of people ask me about staffing. So I just want to give everybody an update as to where we are, at least back in May 28th of this year. We have 432 total sworn positions. Of those, we currently have 378 filled and 54 vacant ones. We are obviously working on the vacant positions. We have a lot of people in backgrounds and in the pre-academy. So once they finalize all that, then they'll move to the filled position. of those sworn positions, when you look at patrol, which are the officers that drive around in the black and white vehicles going to calls every day, we currently have 108. Those 108 are spread between 3 shifts: day shift, swing shift, and graveyard. We typically average 18 to 20 per shift. That is not including traffic and motor officers. So if everybody shows up to work and we're fully staffed, we may have 25 to 30 officers working per shift. As far as sworn personnel, we have total budgeted 117. Of those, we have 94 that are filled, and then 23 vacant spots that we're trying to work on. The civilian positions consist of records. We have non-sworn or civilian traffic investigators. We have CSOs. They work throughout the department doing various things. We have evidence techs. Those are all non-sworn civilian roles. So they are included in that number. Okay, so looking at crime stats, this is a very broad overview of the city of Riverside. The East NPC, the East area that I oversee, is the one on the far right, kind of the peach-colored one. That includes the neighborhoods such as the East Side, University, Mission Grove, Orange Crest, Canyon Crest. All that is included within the East NPC. So when you look at crime stats, bear in mind this is for the month of June, and these are property crimes. These are going to be thefts. These are going to be the ones that kind of happen every day, all night. Your 487s, which is grand theft, petty theft. 594, which is vandalism. GTA, stolen vehicles, vehicle tampering, shoplifting, commercial burglaries, residential burglaries, vehicle burglaries, and then attempts of all of these. Total number that were reported within the East NPC has been 210. And then if you guys can see the breakdown per neighborhood of what those are. Your 488s or your shoplifting is probably going to be your biggest ones, but we also have a good amount of commercial burglaries, residential burglaries, and that's kind of typical citywide. Questions so far? Yes.
What good does this do me if I don't know what those requested crime types are? I don't know what a 487.
487 is a grand theft.
Huh?
Grand theft. It's very. I can run down the list for you if you want.
Why don't they just list what they are?
I can do that for you next time. So 487 is grand theft. Okay.
Okay.
487 is grand theft. 488 is petty theft. So somebody goes to a store and steals something under $950. That's a petty theft. If it's over $950, it will be a grand theft. Okay. Your 594s are going to be your vandalisms. That is on houses, businesses, vehicles are all lumped into vandalism. Okay. Huh?
How about invasion?
I can't hear you.
What about home invasion?
Separate crime. That's not on this list. 10851 are going to be your grand thefts, your vehicles. 10852 is vehicle tampering. So if somebody steals your gas or messes with your vehicle, that's a 10852. 459.5 is going to be your shoplifting. It's separate from a 488. That's going to be your shoplifting. 459C is a commercial burglary. 459R is a residential burglary. Okay. 490.5 again, shoplifting. They're just coded differently in the penal code. And then attempt. 10851 is going to be your attempt grand theft autos, meaning somebody broke in and tried to steal it, but they weren't successful. 10852 is going to be your attempted vehicle tamperings. And then again, the 459C, your commercial, 459R, residential attempt, and then GTA recoveries, meaning if a vehicle is reported stolen, regardless of from where, it could be from the city, it could be from Los Angeles, it could be from out of state, they're listed or they're coded as GTA recoveries. Okay? And then you can see the breakdown per neighborhood total, and then a grand total of 210. Questions?
So next time, just put the descriptions and the number, that way we'll learn.
Got it. Love it. Okay, traffic stops. I know that was a discussion last meeting that I was at, so I had crime analysis run stats on traffic stops. The date range for this is May 1st through June 25th. and this is all within the East NPC. This is not citywide. Total was 559. Okay, when you break down the areas, you can see the grand total. The missing numbers are going to be from the East Side, UCR. Those are the bulk of the traffic stops. This also encompasses traffic units, motor officers, as well as patrol officers. So total number within the East NPC is 559. Okay. Now, calls for service. Calls for service are anything that comes into dispatch, they enter it into CAD, and it is assigned a incident number. Okay. So for the month of May, citywide, we had almost over 20,000 calls for service. Okay. That is call for service. All of that we've done within the department is part of this calls for service. When you look at just the East NPC, we have about 5,200 calls for service. And then on the right-hand side, I broke down the immediate neighborhoods showing the amount of calls for service. But again, this is all calls that come in. Yes.
Is that about average for the month, for each of the months throughout the year?
They vary, but it's typically within this range. Yeah. You'll see June coming up right now. So again, June, we had just over 20,000, and then 4,500, a little bit more for the East NPC, and then again on the right-hand side, you'll see the respective neighborhoods. Yes.
So do you have any like historical data like over the last year? Or, like what are the trend lines? Are the trend lines up?
They're fairly consistent. You may have a little bit of a spike here and there, but across the board, they're generally around that same number. Anything else before I go on? Okay. I also wanted to go over some PSET stuff real quick. Anybody know what PSET is? Perfect. PSET's our public safety engagement team. They're the ones that deal with the homelessness. They're the teams that you'll see in the black pickup trucks or with code enforcement, outreach. They're the ones that go out and address homelessness on public property. PSET is made up of PD, code enforcement, and then the Department of Housing and Human Services. That is the outreach that the city provides to homeless individuals to try to give them some type of help. Our role, PD's role in PSET is essentially security for everybody, as well as any enforcement that needs to be taken. PSET, we are 7 days a week. They are 7 days a week split. There's 2 officers, typically 1 to 2 code enforcement, and then 2 to 4 outreach workers. Now, when you look at 311s that come in, these are only ones that pertain to homelessness. 311 can go to city services, building services, graffiti removal. Those are not included in these numbers. These are strictly homeless-related 311s. Citywide for the month of April, we had 487. PSET, again, public property, public right-of-way was 210. And then POP, which will deal with homelessness on private property, was 161. And then you can see the breakdown for wards and then the neighborhoods. Again, a bulk of the 311s go to university. And excuse me, not university, the east side and the university area is probably second. May, again, 517 total, 240 is public property, 137 is private property, and then again, the breakdown of the wards and the neighborhoods. Yes?
Since PSET was implemented by the city, there's a budget associated with it. I don't know how long it is set up to run, but what analysis has been done or will be applied to the program to figure out what the return is on the investment, and what piece does the police department play in evaluating the outcomes for that?
I don't know that there is a mechanism in place to determine the successfulness of it. PD, we're all the team, it's all collective. I think the real determination would be from the Department of Housing and Human Services, because they're the ones that will actually place the individuals into housing, rehab services. So they'll probably be the ones that do more evaluation on whether or not it's successful. I can tell you it's very difficult. The success rate probably isn't that great because there's no requirement that these individuals receive any type of help. So they're often very reluctant to get help. So that's when PD will step in and enforce anything that we can enforce. So I don't have anything specific to say what that ratio is.
Another question.
Yes.
So the Supreme Court just handed down that new ruling on cities are allowed to enforce no camper. Have you guys heard anything, talked about that? Or maybe you're already kind of enforcing it?
It doesn't change anything that we've been doing, and you'll kind of see some pictures in here in the PowerPoint. We still enforce the no camping. The only thing that really changes is, so prior to, technically we had to have a vet space before we could arrest somebody for camping. If you're doing something else, that's a whole different story. That court case says it doesn't matter if we have vet space or not, we can enforce it. That doesn't change anything that we're doing. We may have more leeway to enforce, but it won't change how PSET operates. Okay? And then when you look at stats from PSET, again, kind of going back to January of this year to May of this year, you can kind of see the numbers, locations, contacts, the arrests that have been made. A lot of these are felony arrests, meaning they'll get booked in the jails for misdemeanors, but a lot of the felony arrests come from warrants. Subjects that got arrested for something, probably didn't show up to court, the judge issued a warrant, so when PSET contacts them, that takes precedence over any type of assistance. So PSET will make that arrest, and then the connections for assistance will be made at the jail. The biggest number at the bottom, that last line, is the debris removal. Part of PSET is a private contractor that will come out and do cleanup several times a week. We tally how much weight is being collected. So you'll see that in the month of May, they collected 30 tons of trash. This is citywide. This is not just this area, this is citywide. And then we all love pictures. You'll see PSET will go out, they'll work hand in hand with the outreach. They'll contact these individuals, try to get them help. Again, a large part of what they do is the actual cleanup. And we do document everything that is done. So again, you'll see the before on the left and then the after on the right. In this picture right here, this is the access center. So this is, it's on 2840 Hewlin, I believe. But this is where it's essentially the hub for all the resources. This is where a lot of these individuals are taken to get their services. So we do spend a lot of time there cleaning up because they do like to congregate out front if they're not getting any type of assistance. So again, before and after, same thing. We give them an opportunity to remove their belongings. If they don't, the city crews will come in and clean that up. And before and after, this one's on 14. And then again, they typically will move along, gather their stuff, whatever is left, we will dispose of. And then this is the flood control under La Sierra 91 area, La Sierra 91. This is the county flood control that we also work hand in hand with the county on to get that cleaned up. And then Costa Blanca. That's it. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
As far as the POP team goes, what do they do for the private property people? Because my homeowners association, we own in Arroyo, and we got issues in there. And so they told me that he said it couldn't help, that the POP team would come out. But what exactly are they doing? Because I still see the same guy living in there.
So for private property, POP can come out and enforce and contact this individual. The only thing that changes necessarily with the private property is we can't remove belongings. That would be up to the property owner to remove the belongings. So if the subject's on private property, we can come out, contact them if somebody wants to essentially arrest or place them under arrest for trespassing. We can do that and we can make that arrest, but any type of cleanup would need to be done by the property owner because we're not going to clean up private property. Make sense?
Yeah, it's just he's still always there because it's a big arroyo, and I don't think they really go in there, and he lives far in there with his going by.
Is that the Creekside?
Huh?
Is that Creekside?
It is.
Yeah, I talked to the police department. Yeah,
It's been an issue for years now.
yeah. We're working on that. You have a question, sir?
Yeah, so semi-tractor trailers continuing to violate city ordinance 10.56.050,
Okay,
axle restrictions
okay,
all over the city.
okay.
I live off Alessandro, so we get it constantly. I've been fighting for 5 years now, I think. And I basically bury the 311 call center in calls, just to log them, just to show it. What is the police department's conversation about how to address this? I've taken this to Chief Gonzalez, had a conversation. I've taken it to the mayor's office. And frankly, this should not be a law enforcement issue. It should be a city issue. So I'm hoping that the police department folks can start banging hard on City Hall to get them to start moving against the logistics centers and get these vehicles stopped, because there's no point in us, expending all this money on the street resurfacing if they're just gonna come right back over and destroy it. So, what's the view?
That is something that is more specialized for commercial enforcement, and we have one commercial enforcement officer, traffic officer. I know he does spend a great deal of time doing that, but he's also subject to your regular traffic enforcement, radio calls, training and whatnot. So I'm not making an excuse, but we have one person that is able essentially to do that stuff. That would probably be a discussion that we could have with the traffic lieutenant and see maybe if we could reach out to CHP and help with additional enforcement and maybe try to at least deter them until we can get something written that says, hey, you guys can't come down here at all. And I don't know if I feel that, but we can certainly try. So,
Spike strips.
I didn't say that. Any other questions?
Over here.
Yes.
Obviously, drug abuse is part of the problem with what you're talking about. You have the undercover officers trying to bag guys.
We do.
Can you repeat the question? Because we didn't hear that.
He's asking about if we have undercover officers that can help try to combat some of the drug dealing. We do. We have a narcotics unit, and we do put projects together by bus programs. The issue is when they're arrested and prosecuting them and getting them to stay in jail. And honestly, there's so many. Again, I'm not justifying it, but there's so many out there that if one gets removed, another one's going to come in. So it's a constant vicious cycle of trying to identify who they are and do that follow-up. But yeah, we did one recently a few months ago at Magna La Sierra, and we arrested over 100 people, and they're right back out. But we do projects like that all the time.
So you're already giving up?
No. We do it all the time.
You're not making any progress with it. There's not fewer drug dealers on the streets than we were 6 months ago.
I mean, I don't. How can we solve it?
More enforcement.
I agree.
No.
Yeah, and that's. I didn't want to say that, but that is a big part of it. Is when there's no punishment, it's very hard to deter them, and we can run around in circles and arrest them. But again, they don't get a court date for 6 months down the road. I mean, there's no incentive for them to stop. So, question?
Another question over here.
Yes.
How proactive is Pop Team?
They are very proactive. They are out in the field. They do a lot of proactive activity, but they also get assigned cases to follow up on. So they have a lot of surveillance and search warrants and stuff that they do. They probably spend, if I had to guess, 50% of their time doing the proactive stuff. They also get assigned these 311s that they need to go follow up on. They do a lot of CPTED or community crime prevention through environmental design. They do a lot of that stuff. So they're pulled in many different directions, but they do dedicate days to do strictly proactive stuff.
I know this isn't an isolated incident, but you're familiar with Chicago and University?
Yes.
Any day you can go down there, there's 30 of them, homeless people behind buildings, in the parking lots, on the streets, in the post office. How is that being addressed?
A lot of it is through,
The DSDT
No.
program, whatever
The
they call it.
VSAT team? No, if it's private property, it's gonna be pop to go out there and do that. And my friend LaShawn here can probably, speak on that a little bit more, but we do work very close with the businesses. We try to get people or businesses or property owners to sign, trespass authorizations, which makes it a lot easier for us to go out and contact these individuals and arrest them without having somebody physically there to sign the form.
So that's a private property issue?
Yes, yes, yes.
So posting no trespassing is like really essential for business, for private property people to do. I mean, if it's posted, no trespass, or no loitering and stuff like that, does that help you guys?
We would need to, in order for somebody to not have to physically be present to sign their private person, we would need that trespass authorization on file.
Oh, okay. that was fine.
In regards to the big rigs that are driving in the unpermitted streets, Highway Patrol was out today. I don't know if anyone saw them. They were on giving out those tickets. The drivers don't care about the ticket as well because their boss will pay for it if it will allow them to do a job quicker. So there just isn't a whole lot of teeth for some of these things for me because they were able to, do 10 drops instead of 2 because of the shortcut.
Yeah. Okay.
And as far as the private property and the homeless over there out in Chicago, like my lieutenant was saying, if the business owners don't contact us or don't want to push it, we can't force them. And so part of my job is to keep trying to educate so that way they're consistent and we're not allowing like one person because 1 turns to 2 and 2 turns to 10. But if we can't make them get the people off their property, they do at some point when they get frustrated, but we're dealing with it. And then regarding the Arroyo question, we are working on that as well. Like she mentioned, the POP team, they put up projects and they are working on projects and we walked that. I walked that with the prior HOA group and we are very aware of what's happening. What tends to happen too is when they get out there, if that person is not there, they can't get the person, but you guys are able to take the trash. But until we can catch up with the person, it's kind of like a cat and mouse game. So we haven't forgot about you.
Final question, hopefully. If the property owners are maintaining the public nuisance, these businesses, what are you doing or what is the city doing to notify the property owners of their violation and to remove the public nuisance?
So at some point, code enforcement will get involved, and then that's when they kind of put fire under their feet because now that's creating a nuisance or can creating some type of issue, and code enforcement can actually goes after the property owners, and then we'll hear from them.
But they can find the property owners.
They can, and then just to give you a little history, most of our property owners are not here local. Some are out of state, some are out of country, and so it becomes out of sight, out of mind. We're dealing with their problem. They bought property here, and we're dealing with it, and then they get upset when they get fined because they're not paying attention to their property. So code enforcement is the driving force for that.
Okay, let's thank the PD for being here tonight. I think what we need to do is like they do in Germany, the tickets are based on your income. So if it's a corporation that owns the truck, you base it on their gross receipts, and then they pay a $20,000 fine, and others might pay $200,000. Okay. So, tonight our guest speaker arrived, we put out a warrant for his arrest, and they brought him in cuffs, and they're taking the cuffs off him right now, so he can hear. Michael Hestron, the district attorney since 2015. Before that, he served for 15 years as a prosecutor with the DA's office, so he should know that place pretty well. So let's welcome him while I put up his presentation.
Well, good evening, everybody. So I apologize, it's kind of hard to talk to both sides of the room here, so I'm going to do my best. So as you heard, I'm Mike Hestron, I'm your district attorney. I've been your district attorney for about my 10th year as district attorney. actually elected. I'm in my 27th year with the DA's office. So I spent my whole career, the only job I've ever had, I went to school. Didn't plan to do that, came here, hired by Grover Trask, who was an amazing district attorney for Riverside County. He hired me in 1997, and I thought I'll just do a couple of years. In fact, Grover made us pledge that we would stay for 3 years. And of course, I wanted the job, so I said, absolutely, Grover, I'll stay for 3 years. And I thought when I did it, I thought, well, that's a long time. I don't know if I can stay for 3 years. And it's almost 30 years later. I want to tell you what I've been up to this year. It's probably been my busiest year as a district attorney. That's because this year I just happened to be the president of the California District Attorneys Association, which is a statewide organization of elected DAs and deputy DAs that represents prosecutors around the state of California. What we did 2 years ago is a group of us got together and we wrote an initiative for the ballot for this year. And it's called Homelessness, Drug Addiction, and Theft Reduction Act. It's going to be numbered Proposition 44 on the November ballot. So I want to just give you a little bit of the history. That's why I've been busy, extra busy this year. This initiative amends Proposition 47. So I'm here to give you an update on crime and all the things that are going on in Riverside County from my perspective. And I'm certainly happy to take questions about all those things, but I want to talk to you quickly about the initiative, where we're at on it, what it's going to do, what it's not going to do, and then we can go from there on what we need. So those of you who heard me speak before, you know that in Riverside County, unlike, say, Los Angeles County, we prosecute crimes as best we can. My office takes a hard line on crime. I don't subscribe to the philosophy of George Gascon or others of his ilk. I just don't. I think that the job of a prosecutor, the job of a district attorney is to enforce the laws as they're written. It's not my job to write the laws. I can't do that. I don't have the power to do that. Enforce the laws as they're written, not as I might wish they were written or anyone else might wish they were written, but enforce the law. And no exceptions, right? So we enforce all the laws that are passed by the legislature or by the people by way of initiative. But there's only so much we can do because the laws have been weakened and watered down over the last 10 years. Frankly, Proposition 47 passed in 2014, about 2 months after I won election in the June primary, and about a month before I took office as district attorney. So I've been dealing with it the entire time. And if you don't know, I'll just do a quick recap. Proposition 47 made all thefts under $950 in value a misdemeanor. And that is a big problem, not so much because of the $950 limit. That is, of course, that's a problem. But what the law did in addition to that was that it made it a misdemeanor no matter how many times the person did it and got caught. That's the biggest problem with Proposition 47, is that somebody can go and steal from a retail business $900 worth of merchandise. It's a misdemeanor. But they can do that 100 times in a row and get caught every time, theoretically. And I can only charge them, my office can only ever charge them with a misdemeanor. And you can imagine, you can't run a criminal justice system like that because there's absolutely no deterrence. And so skip ahead 10 years and we get the stink burglar and others like him. You remember the stink burglar, right? 77 previous convictions, and of course people that don't quite understand, they'll say to me, how could you let that happen? And I explained, we prosecuted every single time. It's just that I give them a misdemeanor. What else can I do? That's what the law says. All right, so this is a huge problem for California. And you don't be confused by politicians. It has led to an explosion of retail theft. You know it, I know it. I was in Sacramento probably 4 or 5 months ago and attended a select committee on retail theft. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing from these leaders of California. There were people on that dais saying there's no retail theft problem. This is all just made up to scare people. It's not a problem. And of course, I wasn't allowed to speak, or I wasn't there to speak. But I wanted to raise my hand and say, then why are all the big companies locking up their merchandise if there's no retail theft problem? If it's just made up by people like me, they're saying DAs and sheriffs are trying to scare people. So that's where we're at in California. The other big thing that Proposition 47 did is that it made all drug possession, simple possession, not for sale, but drug possession of any hard drug, made that a misdemeanor. Now, I think that provision, that part of 47 was well-intentioned, and I'll tell you why. I think that we had, prior to the early 90s, the 80s and 90s, we had over-incarcerated in California. We had too many people in our prisons that were there just for drug possession. And addicts don't belong, that's not the best solution for addicts. I'm sure in a room this size, many of you have friends and relatives who've dealt with addiction. It's heartbreaking to see people in the grip of addiction. Prison is not the best way, the most efficient way to deal with that very, very difficult problem. However, we have to have a way to force people that are addicts into treatment. That's what they need. Addicts need treatment. And they need to be, the state has to have some mechanism of coercion to force them into treatment. It's not a perfect system, but if you say to people who are in the grip of addiction, if you say to them, we're going to offer you this treatment, or you can take a misdemeanor, be back on the street tonight, what are they going to choose? If they choose, every time they choose, I'll go back on the street tonight. Because they're in the grip of addiction. So we've got to have a change. And so Prop 47 made that change. And it was an unintended consequence, I think, but our participation in California's court-ordered drug rehabilitation programs has dropped 70%, almost 70% since 2014. So 70% drop, and at least partially explains the homeless problem. Because the homeless explosion across California is not explained just by poverty. It's not just explained by high rents or home prices. There's many of those folks are dealing with the twin scourges of drug addiction and mental health that many times comes from long-term drug use. So that's the reality that we're facing in California. We have right now no way to deal with it. The governor, the legislature, they've thrown millions and millions and millions at this problem, and it doesn't work. It's not getting better, and it's not going to get better until we make some fundamental changes. So let me go back to where I started. 2 years ago, we sat down, we wrote this initiative. It's now, we collected signatures, it's now on the ballot. So I want to tell you about it, and then I'll get to the questions. That was a long introduction, I apologize. Maybe this is not on, not working. My introduction was so long, I probably went to sleep. Okay, so I kind of, if you can see my slide presentation, I kind of, I can't read with my glasses on anymore, but I kind of alluded to some of this, so I'll go quickly. Since the passage of Prop 47 in 2014, retail theft is, believe it or not, down 11% in the rest of the country. It's up 51% in California. We collected 910,000 signatures. We raised $8 million to put this on the ballot, and it's going to be on the ballot. Now, I want to be clear about something. It amends Prop 47. It does not repeal Prop 47. I'll tell you why we decided to do that shortly. Okay, so This Proposition 44 will make a couple of changes, and what it does is it brings back the idea of repeat theft. So if someone commits a theft, their first offense, they have no prior record, their first offense, the $950 of Proposition 47 still applies, and it will be a misdemeanor under $950. So status quo for the first two offenses. When someone has two prior offenses on the third offense, then there's no limit, it can be $10, and the local DA can charge a felony, not required to, but can charge a felony. That felony will be punishable by going into the local jail. Okay? On the fourth offense, if someone does not get the message, doesn't change their ways, on the fourth offense of a theft, again, the $950 is gone after the second offense. Any theft, fourth offense, where you've got 3 prior offenses, convictions, then they can again be charged with a felony and they become prison eligible. So they can actually go to prison. And that's gonna, I really push for that provision, not because I especially want to send people to prison, but because the jail in Riverside County is completely impacted. And felons, unless it's violent felony, they're not gonna stay in our jail. So this wouldn't have helped us at all in terms of our theft problem that we deal with here. There's some enhanced penalties for when an offender damages property. We've seen some of these things on the videos. Let me go back. One of the other things that Proposition 47 did is that it does not allow prosecutors to aggregate. So this new amendment will fix that. What that means and what that refers to is that if somebody goes into a retail establishment and steals $600 worth of merchandise, then goes down the street and steals from another establishment, steals $600 worth of merchandise, does it again 2 more times, so they've gone well past the $950 in total stolen goods. The law doesn't allow us to aggregate that. Each one of those is a misdemeanor. So this fixes that. This will allow us to aggregate, like we used to be able to. We used to be able to say, look, if it's basically the same course of conduct.
Like you say, with violent felons, what good would this do prosecuting somebody as a felon with multiple charges if they're not going to be incarcerated? That's the first question. Second question is, why put businesses under the pretense that they have to suffer $50,000 in damages? Why not 10? Why does the property owner or the business owner have to suffer more as a result of a repeated criminal?
Let me answer your first question. Did you hear what I said about the fourth offense? They become prison eligible. Yes, sir. You didn't hear that?
No, I did not.
Okay. So yes, on the fourth offense, someone becomes prison eligible. And if you didn't know, our prisons are not full. The governor's emptied them. So we have plenty of room in our prisons. In fact, so much so that he wants to close prisons. In fact, he's closing a prison in Riverside County as we speak.
Exactly right.
Yeah, so there's plenty of room at the inn, and this district attorney, I plan to send them to the inn. in
I
prison.
heard you say that the Riverside County jails are full.
I did say that, but you didn't listen to the next thing I said, which was, that's why we have the fourth offense, we're gonna send them to prison.
Good.
So, and then the 50,000, I'm not sure what you're referring to. This imposes an enhanced penalty for someone who causes more than $50,000 of damage.
Why not just, if they cause $10,000 worth of damage,
Well-
why does it have to be 50?
Well, it doesn't have to be 50. It's an enhancement. So it allows prosecutors, if there's significant damage over 50,000,
Right.
we can send them to prison for longer. Is what the enhancement is.
I think the point I was trying to make is why does it have to be, if their fourth offense, why do they have to have a level of dollar amount?
No. You're confusing it. Their fourth offense has nothing to do with the 50,000. Nothing. Okay. This is an enhancement. So that's different. So let me go through it again. So the first offense,
I got that.
950, second offense, 950, stays the same. Third offense, the 950 drops away. So in other words, if you have 2 priors for theft, your third, and you steal a candy bar, you can theoretically be,
Third strike candy bar.
basically, you could, Well, that probably is not gonna happen, but yes, I mean, somebody could be prosecuted, the 950 goes away. So you steal $50 worth of merchandise when you have 2 priors, you can be charged with a felony. That third offense is only punishable by local jail.
Right.
The fourth offense,
Could go to prison.
yes, but the 50,000 has nothing to do with that.
All right.
The 50,000 is just an enhancement for when someone does more than just steal. They go in and they ransack the place.
Smash and grab.
Smash and grab, burn the buildings, take the, break the glass doors.
That was my point, is that if they do a smash and grab, why does it, what if they only did $10,000?
Yeah, they still,
It's still gonna be an enhancement?
no, not that enhancement. This is what we're adding to the law. Certainly we can still, they're gonna get, we can charge them with a felony, we can send them to prison, they may get more time in prison because remember, all felonies have a range. So
Right.
the more serious it is, they can get the more serious time in prison. Right. So this is just an enhancement that we're adding on top of everything. All right. I'll go forward a little bit here. Oops. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Maybe that's what I wrote. Okay, so the other thing it does is it adds fentanyl to the list of hard drugs, and it enables stricter penalties for dealers for traffic causing death. Okay, so this, some of you may know that in Riverside County, we've taken a lead on prosecuting fentanyl dealers who cause death for murder, second-degree murder. This initiative will actually put into law what's called Alexander's Law. If you're not familiar with that, it was a law proposed and it's failed, I think, 3 times now in the legislature, to say that if somebody is found guilty of trafficking fentanyl, they're going to get an admonition from the judge saying, this is dangerous to human life, you can kill someone, and you can be prosecuted for those deaths in the future if you continue to do this. It's just a warning. It never made it into law. This will put that into law, that warning. Just like we do with DUIs. If anyone gets a DUI, you get a warning from a judge that says, driving under the influence is dangerous to human life. If you do it, and you kill someone, you can be charged with murder. So it gives them fair warning, and then prosecutors can use that warning in the next trial to say, you were warned, you knew the risks, and you disregarded those risks. All right, so let's skip to the drug part. So what this initiative would do, and look, we don't want to, and I don't want to fill up the prisons with drug addicts. That's not what, and there's no prosecutor, there's no elected DA in California that wants to do that. We don't. But what we're doing right now is not working either. So we've got to find a way to use the law, the criminal law, to incentivize people and get them into treatment. So this is going to be a hard lift because we've had 10 years where we've dismantled our infrastructure to do this. We've got to build it. So here's how it's going to work. If this initiative passes, it will create something new in California law, something that's never been in existence before, and it's called a treatment mandated felony. What that means is that a simple possession of any of the 5 hard drugs, and the 5 hard drugs are cocaine, methamphetamine, fentanyl, heroin, and PCP. Those are the 5 hard drugs. Simple possession of any of those 5 hard drugs, the first 2 possessions are going to be a misdemeanor. Just so Prop 47 stays in place, just the same. The third possession can be a felony, but it's a treatment mandated felony. So what does that mean and how is it different than a regular felony? Well, it means that the judge is going to say to the individual, the DA has charged you with a felony, these are the punishments, potential punishments. However, it's treatment mandated, so I'm going to order you into treatment. And so that, in lieu of prosecution. So the judge will say to the individual, you're going to go to a court-ordered treatment, and if you succeed, it's written right in the law, the court will dismiss the charge. So it's a treatment mandated felony. All you have to do is go to treatment, succeed at treatment, and the case goes away. And there's no conviction, the arrest records are sealed and all those things. So it's the same kind of process. On a fourth conviction, someone could theoretically go to prison if they won't stop. We want to get them into drug treatment and prioritize mental health and drug addiction treatment. I'll get back to you. It's what's driving our homelessness. And so we think this is going to be a first step, not a last step. I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is going to solve it overnight. There's a lot of problems, a lot of difficulties ahead if this passes. One of them is rebuilding the infrastructure. And somebody asked me, not here, but in previous talks that I've given about this, well, you know, who's gonna pay for it? First of all, that's a question. Of course, it's gonna be us. And there's no hiding that. We're paying for it either way, right? By the way, you all pay for it already in the tax that's called the retail inflation tax. Because you're paying all those products going out the door that they call shrinkage, you're paying for it. We're all paying for it. But we also have to build the infrastructure. These programs dried up. So I told you we had a 67 or 68% drop in participation in these programs. So a lot of them kind of dried up and went away, and we got to rebuild it. So once the need is there, presumably it will rebuild. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is that an inpatient or outpatient?
It's going to be, the judge is going to have some discretion. So primarily, it's probably going to be outpatient, is what it's going to be. I'm hoping that, because drug rehabilitation programs are really only as good as how good they really are, right? They're only as effective. So the good ones, we have one in Riverside, the ROC program. It was good. It was terribly hard for these addicts. I spent 2 years working in drug court as a prosecutor, and I watched people. I watched some real success stories of people kick the drug habit and turn their lives around. But it's not easy. You see them coming in, and they would report into the judge every month, and you can see them. You know, when they started, they looked like walking skeletons, emaciated, their hair falling out, and then skip ahead to a year later, they're getting healthy. You can see them, and a lot of people fail. It's hard.
Well, nobody would do it if they.
Right. But 3-month program doesn't work. So I'm hoping that's one of the things we're going to have to figure out. But we have to put the law in place first, and then we'll start dealing with all those other problems. Yes, ma'am.
I was looking at a documentary on TV, and they're talking about a lady that she researched the treatment centers in the LA area and stuff. She said half the vendors were not even sanctioned as, you know what I mean, where they check them out and say, okay, this is a good vendor, but they were a treatment center. And the other ones, they didn't even have a tracking mechanism for the treatment centers to see what was working, what was not working. I mean, in the 80s, they told them at the mental hospital that they would keep people for like 6 months where they were out, where they really were cured of the disease, because that's what it is. And there was a process. But I always wonder if, how do you know, the person comes in and says, okay, I'm okay right now, but how do you know the follow-up of these treatment centers, and are they effective?
Well, so there's a lot of private treatment centers out there. There's a lot of parents that are, it's heartbreaking to hear the stories of parents who spend, a lot of money sending their kids to these drug treatment programs in places like Malibu, overlooking the ocean, and a lot of them are just after the money, the parents' money. So you're right, there's a lot of problems in these programs, and we're going to have to rebuild programs. There are good ones, though. And, the judges tend to know which ones are the good ones. So it's going to be a slow, painful process to rebuild our infrastructure in this area, but we have to do it. Yes, ma'am.
And what happens the 5th time when they agree that they want to go back and get treatment?
Okay, so that's a good question. Her question was, what happens after, say, the treatment doesn't work? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, they think the treatment was working, and then now they're back.
Yeah, so they're always gonna be given the option of going to treatment. So, because that's what's different. A treatment mandated felony, every time they're coming to court, the judge is gonna say, well, you're charged with a treatment mandated felony, so you're gonna go to treatment. So look at it this way, let's turn it around. Nobody in California is gonna go to jail or prison because of drug possession unless they actively refuse to go to drug treatment. Unless they tell the judge, hey, go pound sand, I'm not gonna do this, they're not going behind bars. But they have to go to treatment. And they have to succeed at treatment. They're gonna have to stick with it. So if they fail and just say, I quit, I'm not giving up, then yes, they go to jail.
And what happens if they do this 3 or 4 times?
They will keep getting treatment until they quit, and then they can go
Okay.
to jail or prison, yes.
So my understanding of the old drug court was that they had to go in, like, once they came out of some sort of treatment, they were having to do daily, weekly, monthly testing.
That's correct.
And then, if they fell on their face, they had to go to jail for a weekend. Or pick up trash or whatever they had to go do something after they
Yes.
fell on their face. But it was a progressive program where the better they were, the better they were treated.
Yeah, so the same thing, I've got to take my jacket off, I'm sorry. Hot in here. So, can I put it over here?
You can loosen the tie too.
Might take it off in a minute. So yeah, I'm hoping that develops. I think it will. So what you're talking about is that what you said is absolutely true, and the judges will have a lot of leeway, discretion. So let me give you an example of how it might work. Someone could come in and say, the judge is going to say, look, you're charged with a treatment mandated felony, so you go into drug treatment or you go to jail or prison. The person says, I'm going to take the treatment. Wise choice. So he sends them off, the judge sends him or her sends them off to treatment, and then, a month later, here comes the person back, they relapsed and they got kicked out of the treatment for using drugs. Now the judge has a choice. Do I go ahead and send them to jail or prison, or do I do something else? And the judge will have that, hey, I'm going to send you into the jail for 3 days. I'm going to order the sheriff to hold you for 3 days. Hopefully they will be able to do that. And then I'm going to bring you back, and you're going back to drug treatment. That's how it worked in the old days. It was not a perfect system. I've been challenged by people that said, you're making it sound like that was a perfect system, and of course not. I'm not. It's just far better than what we have now. Right now, no one's going into treatment from our courts. And at least we have a shot when we have that, what you're describing.
I know,
Oh.
I may be ahead of the game, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
They think that, I understood we're gonna repeal 47, but you're talking about 44. So, going to be under what policy?
Can I come back to that? I'll come back. You did get ahead of me. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Less than a mile from here was Danville Castle. At least when I worked there, we were taking, the judge was working with religious organizations as well. And the success rate with Teen Challenge was 86%, and the only money that was being taken from the state was food stamps. It was a tremendously effective program. I hope we have judges that aren't so secular-minded that they don't recognize it's a spiritual problem here. It can only be addressed spiritually.
Yeah, the judges will have, wide discretion. The judges have always been able to send people into various drug treatment programs. The thing is if somebody says, hey, I want to go to Teen Challenge, or I want to go to, whatever religious-based program, they can do that. They can request that, and the judge can send them. They're not prohibited from doing that.
What if they don't know? The judge knows. He should know what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get that. That's what I say. We're going to have to build up this knowledge and infrastructure. Yes, sir.
So, he's a good friend of mine. I do know he's going to ask that question or make that comment, but mine is related to it. And that is, for you personally, sir, what baseline knowledge is there of the mid-1800s when everything was done in the private?
before so many social services were incorporated into the corporatization of our governmental systems. So that we were to look at it fresh today, not looking at the services available today, but looking at perhaps what could be there because it's underdeveloped, underfunded. But if we started directing remediation and social, spiritual, psychological issues to private organizations, you know, what sort of liability what would be the disincentive for not doing that if the prospect of a better result seems rather intuitive?
So I think that there's always been private and public programs, and they sort of interact and mix together, and the judge has the discretion and the power to send them to both. And so I remember from my time in drug court that there were private programs that would come in, and you know they would advertise and work in the jails, and they would have people come in and get sent to their program, and then they would come in, just as this gentleman was suggesting, they would come in with the person on their weekly or monthly checkup with the court, and the court would say, how's he doing? And you'd have somebody standing there saying he's doing great, he's attending Bible study with us, and all those things. So, you know, the judges do that routinely. That's not something that is very foreign.
Well, is there influence we can put on the judges then?
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe that another conversation about that.
Yeah, so once this passes, then what you have to do then is get with these other programs and have them realize that they have to rebuild the infrastructure and that they can put together their own programs to service these populations and go to the court and say, we want to be considered a vendor, we want to be on your list.
Going to the court, which court?
You have to go to the court overall to get your name on the list.
So it's an education process all the way
Yes.
around.
Yeah.
We're going to have to start over. We have to build this infrastructure up.
You gotta do it.
Okay, let me get through this because I want to get to this question that I skipped over. So, our major funders were the retailers, and they came through big this time. So, Walmart, Target, Macy's, Home Depot, 7-Eleven handed us a $1 million check. Yeah, they blew it up, one of those big checks. We worked hard to get this on the ballot. You will not believe what's been happening since we qualified, because the folks up in Sacramento are completely panicked that this is going to get on the ballot. The governor's losing his mind. He's threatening us. He's told us, I'm just going to tell you because I have nothing to lose, but I mean, he's told us, you know, you're never going to get anything passed. I happen to be a Republican, but there are Democrats elected DAs, and the governor and all the powers that be up there are telling them, if you don't get them to withdraw this, you're never going to go anywhere in state government. So it's really gotten really ugly and very fast. They tried to do these poison pill amendments. I don't know if you've heard about that, but they were going to do these other fixes, fake fixes for 47 that did nothing, and then put a pill in there, or an amendment in there that said, if this initiative passes, these will become null and void. The whole purpose of that was to try to get us to withdraw this. So we had until June 27th to withdraw it. I'm the president of CDAA this year, so I would have had to agree. And I said, over my dead body, we're withdrawing this. This is the only time in the last 10 years that we have to fix this. This is a fundamental problem in our state law. We have to fix it. I believe it's going to pass. We've done several polls, and it's polling off the charts. That's why they're so scared up in Sacramento. They're panicked because it's polling in the up above 75%, and that's likely voters. We're not talking about one small demographic. This thing's going to pass, and they're terrified of it. So let me get to the end.
It'll just need to have less than 19 pages description in the ballot book, like Proposition 1 had,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So the latest thing is that the governor, and they're going to vote on it. These are just some of our donors, of our supporters. I do want to point out before I tell you what the governor's doing now is that it's really quite bipartisan. If you look at who's supporting this, you got the mayor of Santa Monica, We've got the mayor of San Francisco that is supporting this. So when you see news conferences for this initiative, you're not going to see my face out there. Everybody knows that I've been talking about this for 10 years. What you're going to see is small business owners. You're going to see people affected by Prop 47. You're going to see people who are social justice warriors, who are saying, you know what, I believe in social justice, I'm happy about the reforms that we made, but this has gone too far. And so, it's a really broad-based coalition. And I think that's it. I'll leave it on this one. If you want to get more information, you can go to the website. The last thing I'll tell you before I take any final questions is that the latest thing they're doing is the governor and the legislature, they're going to vote on, I think Wednesday, so I think tomorrow, they're going to vote by tomorrow, they're putting their own initiative on the ballot. The sole purpose is to confuse voters. They passed a law that said their initiative has to be first. And so their initiative is going to be Proposition 2. Ours will be 44. So they're hoping that some of you listen to my talk today, and then you see they're going to name it something that's somewhat related to this, amend 47 or something, and they're hoping that that's what you're going to pick. It's completely watered down. It does nothing. It does nothing. There's no repeat offender. There's a quick washout. You have to, in other words, if you have committed your offenses within 2 years, it's all washed out. Well, that's not going to help us. So there's no provision for the treatment mandated felony. They completely got rid of that. So that's gone. It took out everything related to fentanyl. It's nothing. It's designed to fool the voters into thinking they're fixing Prop 47, when in actuality they're not doing much of anything at all. So it's unfortunate that that's what California politics has become, but it's the reality. So please, read the ballot closely this year. Make sure you're voting for the right amendment. I hope it fails. I think they're having trouble getting the votes. Look, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of Democrats that are common sense, moderate Democrats who are irritated and offended by this, by the games, right? So I have a feeling that they might have trouble getting the votes. Yes, sir.
So the big question is, I think it kind of alludes to what Louis was saying, is are they going to call it something really stupid? So that, again, it confuses them, and who writes that response within the
Attorney General.
Yeah, the Attorney General, right?
Yeah.
Writes that, the description, right? So
Yes.
good luck with that too, right?
Yep, we're expecting, we're buckling our seatbelts. We think it's going to be bad. And by the way, the original name of our initiative and the description of it was actually not bad. But the Attorney General has, I believe, he has about 3 more weeks to redo ours. So we're sort of expecting that he's going to rewrite our description. We'll see. Yes. And by the way, it's going to be Proposition 44. Ours is going to be the number 44. Yes, we're going to be Prop 44.
So they're going to be 47, like they're going to repeal it?
No, they're going to be Proposition 2, and they're going to say that they're amending it. And they are, technically, but they're not doing much.
So it's going to be a shell game.
Yes.
Half of what they say ain't true, and the other.
Yeah. Did you have a question, ma'am?
Yes, I came in late, I might have missed it, but is there yard signs or anything that says yes on 24, no on 2, or anything like that?
There will be, not yet. We have a campaign, and you can go to that, you can use that CR code there to go to the website, but there will be. We just got the number, so we'll be printing all those things up. Other questions? Yes.
As president of the California DAs Association, what percentage of the DAs in California are with you, and what percentage are against you?
So the vast majority are of one mind on this. We're united. There's a small group. George Gaston is off. He doesn't even. He withdrew from our organization, by the way. So, but there's a few others. The DA of Alameda County, the DA of San Jose, the DA of Ventura County. Some of those folks are staying out of it. But there's really a handful on the other side that are either staying quiet or they may support the governor. The governor's working hard to try to get elected DAs to make it seem like he's got support, but there's 58 counties, and I would say that 52 or 53 of us are strongly supporting this. It's really a small number on the other side. It would be false to say we are divided, the DAs are divided. We're not.
So the Prop 2, that's where, the Prop 2, they're going to add like 6 or 7 things that make it look like that's the good one. But
Yes.
then they can rescind that as soon as it passes, if it passes, heaven forbid.
Well, it's not that it will be rescinded, it's just that it will be, it's very watered down. So if you read the fine print, the title will say amend 47, but it's very watered down. So it does make some changes, but it won't be effective.
But they could take those away.
No, once it's passed, if the voters pass that, then that would become the law.
Okay.
Right.
So, Michael, let me ask you this. California has had a famous scoring method of basically propositions get passed by the public and then some judge says 5 days later, they even done it before the election and said, well, it's unconstitutional, so we're throwing it out.
So I don't think that's going to happen with 47. Now, that just happened with the tax measure, the anti-tax measure. That was a little bit stunning the way that ruling came out. But so Prop 47 already passed, and it was ruled constitutional. So both our initiative and their initiative is going to be amending Prop 47. So very difficult for any court to say all of a sudden the amendments are unconstitutional. I don't think that would fly. So I don't see that as a
All
problem.
right, let's give Michael a big hand. Thank you very much. For a few minutes in case anyone's got any personal questions. I'm going to present you with a pin, one of our official Mission Grove Neighborhood Alliance pins. It's got antimicrobial coating on it. It's got a rubber tip so you don't put your fingerprints on your phone, and it's got a flashlight to find your way.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. I'll stay outside a little too much.
What would happen if both propositions passed?
Both propositions passed, the one with the most votes goes into effect.
Another reason to get out the vote, right? Okay, any other questions? We want you to keep watching your email. We're sorry if you send out multiple emails, but we got a lot of things on the fire right now. We've got the Kmart piece that we're going to keep you abreast of once we get the answers back. We figure it's going to take them a couple of months to answer all those 1,000 questions. We've got the new EIR you're going to get, but we've still got the Arctic electrical lines, trying to get all the community organizations. We need to put one of these down. Each one of them takes on the responsibility of going out and getting 2,000 signatures from registered voters, and we can start turning around some of these city council things. But with the referendum, if we get out there and get it done right after they vote, then they can't vote on it again for another year. So it does work. We just got to go out there and do it until we can replace some people in some of these positions. City council, the next election will be 26, and that'll be wards 2, 4, and 6, which we are in ward 2 and 4 because we got split. So we're looking to put in a couple of people of our own in those 2 wards. So thanks for coming. We appreciate it. Brian,
The fire department.
Microphone.
The fire department.
Stop.
Okay, the fire department is having a Citizens Fire Academy. It's 7 weeks.
here it is. It's on the screen.
So if you want it, sign up for it. We did this police one. It was great. In January, the DA is going to have a Citizen Academy, so we'll do that one too. And the second one was on the Burtec tour. we asked them what the number one problem was, and they said people throwing batteries in the trash cans.
They blow up.
They said, it used to be they'd have a fire in the trash truck once every year, now they have it at least once a week. So, what they asked us to do is just, I said, if you want me to tell the group, what do you want me to tell them? Don't put batteries. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring a bucket every month. You guys can bring your batteries, because I understand, I mean, how many batteries do you go through in a month? Not very many, and you're certainly not gonna drive down there and stand in line to do the hazmat. So, we'll bring a bucket, and throw in your 4 or 5 batteries, and then we'll take it down once it's full. Yes?
Make sure that they tape the ends of the batteries. We'll be discussing.
Okay, yeah, a little bit of tape on the ends of the batteries, so that way we don't blow up the country club.
We actually had a facility down in Anaheim where the batteries were blowing up while we were showing you the trash and it burned the whole place to the ground. And a year and a half later, they are still trying to rebuild it.
And then we did talk to them, and the city, we're working with the city to get free mulch and compost. So I don't know if we're going to have a day where we can come and just fill up the shovels.
Well, I know the city had said that they spent $2 million to pay for people to sort stuff.
Right.
My thing is, so when you're sorting the cardboard and plastic and all that stuff, where's that?
Well, it's interesting you brought that up. Right now, Vertec takes all the recyclables, and then they sell it. So that helps them pay for their operation. The city, which I don't think told Vertec, started a new program that some of us have signed up for. You basically take all your cans and your recyclables that you can get money for, you put them in a bag, they'll come by when you call them, and they'll take the bag, it's barcoded, and then they send you a check for whatever amount the recyclable was. They take 10%, and then you get 90%. Sounds like a great program, unless you're Vertec and you're making millions of dollars on recyclables. You just lost that. So, yeah, I haven't done the first time because I don't drink that many aluminum cans, but I did talk to someone, they said it worked great. They texted, they put their bag out, the guy came, picked it up, and 7 days later they got a Venmo check. So, yes.
Hi. I have a question for you. Last time we had the city here, they were talking about redoing our medians in Mission Grove. And there's an area between Candy Crush and Mission Grove, right by Taft Elementary, where it looks like the water's been shut, it's all dying. I didn't know it was that.
Yeah, they know that all that irrigation all the way from Canyon Crest up to Alessandro is bad. They mentioned that to us a while back. They're eventually going to get to it, but I don't think we're first on the list. So, another thing, we talked about the warehouses. The warehouses are also spreading to Mead Valley. And the Mead Valley group are all up in arms because they're trying to move warehouses into that area. So it's an epidemic of this thing of warehouses. Even though the demand for warehouses has gone down, there's a lot of them that are still vacant, trying to get rented, but you know, they put these plans in place years ago and they're just not about to change it. So that's why we've all got to get together and make those changes. So, any other questions or comments? Yes.
Now, everyone talks about 47 and when he's talking about 44, but how do we get that out?
Well, once they come up with some signs and stuff, we will make sure we have a bunch of signs here so people can put them in their yard. When he put up the groups that had agreed to the proposition, he unfortunately cut off the neighborhood groups because we were the first ones to send in that we were going to support it. So yeah, it shows Mission Grove Neighborhood Alliance is supporting Prop 44.
And we'll send it out to the 800 or 900 people on our email, and then we expect you to send them out to 10 people on your email list, and so on and so forth. So,
Right.
Why are there so many
because I frequent them, so I.
Well, we know we'll have that discussion for another meeting. Okay, thanks, folks. Have a safe drive back, drive safe. Oh, you can take the flags off the table. Everyone take a flag.
In the back, there's a map of California and then two magazines that have some half-day trips and full-day trips